Welcome to Humans and AI, recorded live from the Gemma Days in Paris, Google AI conference. AI is evolving at lightning speed, and developers need to stay ahead. What really matters right now, and how can AI be used effectively in real-world projects? I'm your host, Adima Zorcario, and today I'm joined with Guillermo Rodas. Hi, how are you?
Good.
Senior developer at Motherbrain AI. To cut through the noise and share practical insights every developer should know. Let's dive in. So AI is evolving incredibly fast. If you had to pick one thing developers must know and focus on right now, what would that be?
Yes, thank you for having me here. I think there is a lot of skepticism about using AI like in your day-to-day job. So I think one thing that every developer should do right now is just to pick tools and use it to develop. Because some time ago it was quite different. But now it will make a big difference. Like if you start using tools in your developer workflow, you will be amazed about what modern tools can do to improve your development workflow. You are going to be faster developing, you are going to be more effective, and you can focus on the things that matter.
Do you think that developers need to think differently right now about what they're doing?
They need to be open to use AI.
Yeah.
It's like we used to use Google to, a lot of search. And of course, the same principles apply. Like you just don't Google and copy and paste and, don't look at the code and you need to really understand what you're doing. Yeah. So I guess it's the same principles. If you are using AI, just make sure you are reviewing what you are using, how we are using, but it's just going to be like a tool that is going to integrate really good in your workflow. So they don't really need to think different. They just need to be open and be open to change and use the tools.
About a year ago, things looked really different. And what's the biggest change in AI over these 12 months? And what developers need to understand from a year ago?
I think I kind of by section because I have been working as a full stack most of the time. Also very front-end focused, but still because I really like to learn new things. I remember years ago, I took a deep learning course. And all the knowledge and the terms were very difficult, to understand. A lot of statistics, a lot of it was fine and it was good, but it was very complex. Sometimes people think using AI is just the day-to-day work they're going to create models and solve big problems. But at the end, it's everything. When you work as a full stack, you're not going to create new algorithms. You're just going to probably put some divs and some styles. With AI I think was similar. At the end you will use TensorFlow and we use predefined models to some sort of solve problems. But right now what has changed is it becomes accessible. Everyone can use LLMs because you use natural language, right? You communicate with LLMs as you talk with the person. And that is very magical, but mean that everyone can just, go deep in and use it. So we need to be aware that everyone is potentially a coder. It's going to be more accessible. Yes, of course, if you're a senior, you have experience, you have an advantage because you know the basis, you know how to identify if something is wrong when AI made. But I guess we are going to have more people that is going to deep into coding, probably no code, low code techniques. Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest change. AI just becomes super accessible for everyone to do just that.
So you're not that special as you thought,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. I have friends that are machine learning engineers and they were a little bit worried. We used to do models and with LLMs, everyone can do it. So one shift that I think is happening is everyone is going to be more full stack than before. We don't have that restriction of, you need to go to a new language, you need to read a lot of documentation. For me, Python is not my strongest, but because AI is, it's kind of the main language. One thing is I just go there, use LLM to write some Python code. And because, of course, I have experience coding before, it's easy to spot maybe things that are it looks wrong. And even though I don't know how to solve it, I can ask, this looks like a very bad pattern. Maybe give me information about which sort of patterns of, some sort of things are usual in this Python environment and help me. You become more fluid. There is no this language barrier anymore. So I think everyone is going to become more full stack. Those that were scared of React in the front end, everything's so complicated. Now that language barrier is less. It's very thin.
But I think there is a difference between front end and back end. You need certain skills that, first people would see it or not is a good thing. But I want to ask you, do you think that developers need to really sharpen some of the skills that were not that prominent because they need to understand in high level, because they need to understand not in the specific of the component and all that?
I think the same principles as if you want to become a generalist or a specialist, it will apply. The AI will make it easier. This way to just jump into an area is going to be there's going to be less friction there, right? So yeah, for sure. Like if you want to do good front end, you definitely need to go deep and understand what is behind. If you're so let's say you want to prototype something and you're a backend developer, you never see HTML, CSS, you're really bad. And usually when you want to prototype and you're a backend developer, you will do it anyway.
Yeah.
But the app will look very bad, right?
Like a backend.
Now with AI, this person can do the same and it's going to look a little bit nicer. And what is very interesting is we know about accessibility or, some sort of design patterns that is important to be there. So now with AI, it can help. And this backend person doesn't need to know exactly how it works. But maybe it's not going to be perfect. Maybe it's going to be a little bit bad. Tools are evolving really fast. LLMs are the models are becoming more smart and smarter. So I guess at some point it will be it will be fairly good enough to ask, please make this app accessible, and probably potentially is going to do that decent job. And maybe the backend person will have time to maybe go into the details and learn, okay, let's check about what is accessibility, like how it really works. And it will see, it's like this, and maybe I do this. And probably have a front-end friend, and I have this, maybe you can take a look. It's going to be easier because maybe it's just two little details to fix. So definitely, yes.
Yeah.
Let's deep into understand something because it's going to be valuable to be a specialist, but it's going to be easier to just become full stack.
Yeah, and I think another big change that in the past when you use something that was created by a machine, the code was very heavy and dirty and you couldn't really use it for real production. Yeah. And now the code is much better when it's created by these AI.
Yeah, much better.
Yeah. Not every AI project succeeds. What are the most common mistakes developers make when they are interested in using AI for their project?
Yeah, I guess there are two aspects. One is thinking that, especially because today, AI is a lot of different things, right? But right now it's becoming very popular, like the LLMs. And one big mistake is thinking that LLMs will be a good fit for everything, like math or calculations. I mean, yes, they're being evolving to be good at it, but I won't say that's the best way to use LLMs at all. Like anything that is test-based, like summarization, like extraction, like maybe creativity, brainstorming, that kind of stuff, LLMs are really good. But if it's about do math or something like that, definitely is not a good idea. I have seen sometimes the developers use it for do everything. We have a structured outputs, like now LLMs cannot just response as a markdown. You can define a proper JSON, and structured output will be make sure the quotes or the curly braces will close properly and everything. But it's still that's nice. But I think we should understand anything that is math, it could potentially fail. So maybe do average because it will do it, and it potentially will do it good, especially if there is some sort of multi-model behind the model or something. But no, I think we need to understand at the end, this is just a prediction. So maybe summarization, extraction of text, that's where we can use LLM in a very smart way. Of course, you can use tools around it, right? You can use agents or different tools or data loaders to make it more multimodal or more complementary experience. And that's definitely something that we need to have into account. We don't need to use AI for everything. It's not like coding is over and we just prompt and then you get results. Yes, but maybe it's not going to be accurate most of the time. Then you are going to send a lot of
junk in.
Yes, and it's going to create latency because interfaces like ChatGPT or Gemini are fast. It doesn't mean it's going to be as fast in the API because then you need to be sure when you're using as a developer, right, in your own product. Then you are not going to worry about latency, cache, a lot of details that is not that magical as when we use it in this product.
Yeah.
And the second thing that is still relevant for developers because as a developers, it's important to understand what kind of products we're building. We shouldn't just go there and coding and don't worry about what is this going to be used for because it's important. If you know what is going to be used, it could potentially impact how you develop things, right? So one thing that I have seen is it feels very magical for us when we use AI for some sort of sector or industry. But when an expert of this industry comes in, it will be very generic, right? It's similar as maybe we ask about something about programming, and then, yeah, it's a good answer, but it's very generic when you need something very specific, very niche, something that will be really helpful in your work. Like, probably you still need to do research, right? You need to go to good sources. So I think that's important to also understand, like, because it feels magical or everything. It's not ready to just like plug and play. You need to really maybe create a rack with external sources, like to feed like proprietary information to make like the tool very powerful. Because if the knowledge is going to be just what the model knows about internet, that's not going to be enough at professional level. So that's important to understand as well. Like you need to do a lot of user research or test with the users to really like make sure this is really helpful for these professionals, right? Because you are not an expert in the area, so you need to really go there and understand, okay, is this helpful? No, what is missing? And then you just like fix it with other, strategies.
I totally agree that we need to understand that it's very powerful, but it cannot do like everything. And if we want something that is dedicated, I come from product, and most people say, okay, we would create some kind of an interface, like a chat or whatever, and people would ask and they would get answers. But it's not enough because they want something very specific. Some of the cases, it's much harder for them to write their own questions. You just need to help them. Some of the cases, you just need to understand what they're looking for. And it's like going for something which is too wide. It doesn't make sense. So what is the value that you're bringing them? So for sure, it's the same for programs. And I think that programmers, they like the details in many cases. They're very analytical. That's why they're programmers, right? So they need to go into that point of view in viewing AI in the same way that they're doing anything else, because they know how to go into something very deeply, right? So that's the same thing. Scaling AI isn't easy. What's the biggest technical and practical challenges developers face when taking AI solutions from prototyping to production?
I think that in my experience, there have been like different things there. Sometimes people get very excited about prototypes. Like you build a quick prototype using like different tools. And as I mentioned before, like when you put like a big prompt, that's going to create latency, right? And maybe when you are testing, it's going to work well, like fine, like it's going to answer quickly. But then you need to make sure like you move from the prototype into production if you are planning to really put this into a real product. So one of the challenges is like, it's not even related with AI. But I guess people, when it's so magical, it's like they get very excited. Oh, this just is so easy and it just works. Like they forget like still AI is just like something that you have extra, right? But you still need to build a product that works for people, that adds value, right? And then you can use AI to improve some things. It doesn't mean to be all AI. Like AI is just going to be a helper in this scenario. So we have these APIs, but then for a scale, you need to have into account cache. You need to have into account maybe, latency is going to be a problem. So how do we solve this? Maybe we introduce from the UX, like the experience, how do we like show to the user a quick answer while we are streaming the rest of the answer? So there are a lot of strategies there. I think it's still very early for a lot of us to understand like how do we manage this experience using AI to the users. And cache, for instance, is one of those tricky because you can cache at so many different levels. Right now, you can cache at the model level, for instance, using the tools like LangChain. But then you don't really need cache right away. You need to have a reason why to use cache, because cache can be the opposite. It can be a bad thing because then the user is trying to get a fresh answer, and then it's getting stale information. So then it's important also to introduce like observability into AI. So there are tools like Landsmith or even Datadog where you can see, okay, what is the prompt, what it's doing, if it's taking like too much, like calling the model, or maybe it's parsing, or maybe it's like retrieving the data from other data source. Like, it's important to don't forget that we still need to build an infrastructure and some sort of AI platform around those tools when we want to go production. And that is like the data concerns. Like in Europe, we need to be very mindful about data. How do we treat data? If it's, a private, if it doesn't violate like any like GDPR, that kind of stuff. And then you still need to worry about that, right? Sure. So it's very magical, but it's not like, as I said before, it's not just plug and play, right? Into production. Yes, for prototype, you can use whatever, probably. But then you still need to worry about all the things that we use in the different stacks. Like have a good platform that support like our final consumers. It can be other teams, other developers that are going to use
Right.
AI.
I think that in general, you could say that the powerful tools that would help you do all of that things that you mentioned are not there yet, because there is the GDPR, there's security issues, there are points of like what you said about the amount of data, how do we scan the data, how do we learn from this data, how is our model getting better, and we monitor it through the usage, right? So there are so many points of views to these like use cases when it's in production that I feel that it's not there yet. The tools are not that there yet.
They're not that mature. I mean, there are definitely a lot of opportunity. We can see like a lot of like AI companies that are providing this on sort of service, like a lot of vectorized database, a lot of like observability platforms or LLM ops, how it's called, like Landsmith. There is a lot of opportunity there to build something that is not like end user, but maybe for the developer experience. I mean, it's very mature. It's not mature enough. It's very green right now, and there is a lot of opportunity, to maybe...
maybe we should start
security. I still need to,
finish
practice more,
But what you just mentioned, there are so many opportunities for everyone to learn as developers. And I think that these new startups and tools would help you solve problems that we don't even know yet. Even if we're just taking security, we don't know yet what could be there. Or if we're talking about the data, we don't know really what that means when we have like maybe machines talking to machines. What is the meaning of that, for example? It's like only starting, that's for sure. Okay, on a lighter note, what's the most surprising and creative way you've seen AI used recently?
So, not very recently, because very recently I've been focused on working with AI tools and try to supply the needs of my team. I'm content creator as well, and I like to go do presentations. And for me, it has been amazing how like you can now create images out of the blue, right? Like with Midjourney has evolved like a lot. You can see like version 1 to 2, 3. This is crazy how detailed those images are now. And it's very, for presentations, like usually you have this problem like, okay, how do I create an image or how do I look for an image that represents this concept, right? Because I like sometimes to put like a very abstract concept when you're talking in a slides. And then you need to like, it's not the other way around, like, because you have these stock images and then you need like, which one is a good fit? But with AI, you do the opposite. Like, okay, I think a good fit will be, I don't know, snail in a table or whatever. And then you just write that, make it pretty, and then you have it. You don't really need to, like, you can be very creative. And in that point, I really like those tools that are trying to help us to this on sort of like content creation where I remember like I used this tool to help me edit the videos. And in order to clone your voice, because you have this, you say something wrong in a video, like, and then you want to change it. You cannot do that. But now with AI, you can like clone your voice and just
in the script, for example.
The script. So I remember for the script, it was very frustrating because it took like 15 minutes reading a long test today to clone my voice. And then it took like a while to do it. And then after a few hours, I get a really...
That's not my voice.
That's not me. Like, maybe for one word, two, maybe do the trick. Like, it's fine, but it was awful. Because at that time, they sell it like, it's magical. But now it's crazy how fast, because they changed to the new model, for instance. And now you just only need like a few minutes, like not even 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and you can say whatever. You don't need to follow the script, or you can say whatever, and it's very accurate. Like, it's not perfect, of course, but it's much better than like the improvement of this. There is a similar one. I don't know, have you seen, I think it's like, I forgot the name, but you record yourself as a video. And it's like 1 minute or something like that. And then you can create whatever video.
DID?
No, it was something like with Jen something. I can't recall, but it's very realistic. Like, it's
cloning you as an AI avatar.
Exactly. It's exactly yourself. And you can put whatever text you want. And then you can also clone your voice. And then it's going to be very like static in the sense like it can do like this and move.
only the torso.
Yeah, it's like
this way.
a frame.
Right now, this is how it is.
Right now, exactly. And this is probably last year or something where I saw it. And that's crazy. Like, you don't need to worry about, because recording is very stressful, right? Sometimes it's like, oh, I need to record. I think people think, it's so easy. No, every time it's so stressful to record yourself, because this is going to be permanent. I'm going to see something wrong. And it's like,
but you're the only one who notices afterwards.
Exactly.
Like
you see yourself, you notice details. Like, it's like, people is not going to notice those details, but you are like, oh no, I did this and whatever.
Right.
But then with this, it's like, you don't really need to worry anymore. Like, you just put some script and then you have your avatar and it's going to do it. And maybe it's not for every case, but for some cases, it's going to be very useful. It's going to improve your workflow. You are going to have time to maybe record like this kind of live interactions that are important, that are really nice. And then maybe it's something very educative, maybe something very plain. Then you use some sort of tools.
Yeah,
I'm amazed how this has evolved. And we have like video generators that are becoming better and better. I don't know what is going to happen in the future, but it's going to be very excited,
You're more excited than anxious about what's going to be? Like, there is a fine line between these two, right?
Yes, but not for myself, but mostly because, as everything, there is always bad actors, and, they can clone you and do, like, scams. I'm more worried about that part. Like, it's going to be very tricky to detect if this was fake news or not. Like, we need to do something about it. I guess there is a startup already doing something like that for
Another startup.
Another startup. But that's the part that worries me, because we are in tech, and for us it's maybe easier to realize, this is definitely off. Like, this maybe is AI generated. But our parents, for instance, or people that is not in tech, it's going to be an issue. So know about my career, every tool, AI tool, that helps me to make me like more efficient. I'm excited about it. I think it's a great opportunity because it's easier. It doesn't mean everyone wants to do it and I'm going to lose my job or whatever. Still you need commitment to those things. If it's easier, you still need to do a commitment. My concern is more about the other part where it's used for do bad things.
Okay. Thank you for your time. And it's been a pleasure talking to you and lots of fun. And thank you for watching. This has been fantastic conversation. AI is changing the game, and it's clear that developers who stay curious and hands-on will be the ones leading the way. Dieu l'errement. I said it better this time?
It's fine.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts and insights. And to our listeners and viewers, keep experimenting, keep learning, and we'll catch you in the next episode. See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye.